Today we're going to talk about too tight pelvic floors and how to balance out the tensions of the pelvic floor. So a lot of times when our pelvic floor is too tight, that can cause pain. It can also cause weakness in the pelvic floor, as well as incontinence or just pelvic instability. Our pelvic floor is not just about our pelvic floor. It actually starts much lower in the body in the way that our feet, our calves, our hamstrings all articulate through our daily activities. So we're going to start today working on a little bit of calf stretching and then work our way up to the pelvis. So to begin, I've started with just a regular rolled up bath towel. I'm going to place that in front of one of my feet. I'm going to find a nice neutral parallel stance so my feet are nice and parallel. They're pelvis width apart. So by pelvis width, we're going to find our pelvic bones. So if you start at the top of your pelvis, or which most people refer to as hips, we're going to trace down until you find a point on the pelvis. So you're going to actually find that there's a point where it doesn't matter what direction you move, you fall off of that point. That is our pelvic bones. The other point we're going to look at is our pubic bone itself. So we want to try to first line our weight up so that we're nice and vertical over our legs. Our weight is back in our heels, so we don't want our weight in the balls of our feet. We want our weight to be back into our heels. Then we're going to line up our pelvic bone and our pubic bone so that it's nice and vertical. So we don't want the pubic bone to be in front of the pelvic bone or behind it. We want it to be right there. And it's very important to look at the bones, not to look at the flesh of the body, but actually touch the bones and line them up. So you might want to find yourself in a mirror. From here, we're going to take one foot up onto that rolled towel, keeping the weight back in the heel, nice and vertical on the legs, vertical pelvis. And if you're not feeling any kind of calf stretch at all, you can inch your opposite foot forward until you get a little bit of tension. So we don't want to get a huge overbearing stretch. When we stretch too far, we actually create more tension than we're trying to release. So you want to be able to relax into this stretch. You want to keep the pelvis nice and vertical. Again, the weight is still back in the heels. If you feel like you're falling backwards, you're going to want to bend in your ribs a little bit, which will give you a forward curve. That's okay for now, but it'll also allow you to relax into your legs a little bit more. And then we're going to come off and we'll slide that towel in front of the other leg. And you can determine too how thick your towel needs to be. So you can use a couple of towels if you feel like you need a little bit more pressure, or you can use less towels or a small hand towel depending on how tight your calf is. So again, bringing that foot up, we're still on our heels, still vertical in that pelvis. You can inch that other foot forward until you feel a decent stretch. You want to watch that you don't have a lot of tension in your quads. So you're going to you want to be able to kind of wobble them around a little bit. Your knees should be able to dance. If you're tightening up, then you're actually not letting your calves release as well. So again, just finding that position that you need. And then coming back, we're going to bring that towel in front of the other foot, the first foot, and you're going to bring your ball of your foot. You want to make sure it's the ball of your foot that's on top, so not the toes, but the actual ball. The heel is always in contact with the ground. Weight is back in the heels. From here, you're going to bend in your hip joints and your knee joints, taking a little bend and stretching back upward. And again. And bend and stretch and bend. As you bend, you want to make sure that your knees are going right over your toes. So you want to watch that your knees are not coming in and going more into a knock knee position, but they're staying right over the second and third toe. And stretching up one more time and bend. Sit bones are nice and open, so you want to watch that pelvis doesn't get tucked under, but it's actually opening. And stretch. And come back to 2 feet. Sliding that towel in front of the other foot, bringing that ball of the foot up there. You're still pelvis width apart, so watch that you don't start to inch inward. And you're still very parallel in your feet. And from here, bending the knees, creasing in the hip joints. The sit bones, the glutes go away from the thighs. And extend. And again, and bend. Two more here. That knees are going over the second and third toes. And last one. And stretching up. Good. Now from here, moving up into the hamstrings. So we're still in the same parallel position with our vertical pelvis to start. This time we want to try to get those ribs over, the bottom of our ribs over the pelvis. We're going to take the whole pelvis forward as we bend forward. The weight stays in the heels, so we actually start to shift our weight back. So we're no longer vertical on the legs. We actually go into a bit of a diagonal. You're going to keep your spine long in its natural curves here. So you want to really allow the thighs to be nice and soft. Allow that belly to hang. A lot of times we get a lot of pressure down into the pelvis, and that will add to our pelvic floor tension. So we want to really let that belly hang. If you're in the habit of sucking in your belly to make a thinner appearance, or you do a lot of abdominal work, this is really, really, really important to change those habits and let the belly hang. Let the abdominals be a little bit more on the reflexive level rather on the tension level, because that adds an incredible amount of tension to the pelvic floor. If you feel unstable here with your hands on your legs, of course you can use a chair or a counter, whatever will help you. And again, we don't want to go into an overbearing stretch of the hamstrings, but we want to be able to relax into them, relaxing the bones, relaxing the tissues around the bones, and then bring yourself back up. So a little variation on that is to stand with our feet a little wider than your pelvis. So you're going to have your feet pretty wide. You're going to stand up against a wall here. Your feet won't touch the wall because you need to allow for space for the glute tissue. You're still in that parallel position. From here, you're going to want to take a chair, bring it in front of you, or a countertop, whichever works best for you. And as you bend forward in the pelvis, so the same thing that we just did, you're relaxing those thighs. And then you're going to slide your pelvis from one side over to the other side. Again, you're keeping that belly nice and relaxed. But most importantly, you want to feel both sit bones, both cheeks of the glutes against the wall as you slide side to side. So it's not so much of a hip hike motion, which is the tendency that some people would want to get to. But you want to really feel both halves of the pelvis on the wall as you go side to side. You'll feel this stretch in different areas, so you might get an inner thigh stretch, you might get a stretch on the outside of your legs. It might just be purely hamstrings, it could be calves, it could be the outsides of the calves or the insides of the foot. So all of those areas are great places to feel this stretch. And come back to the center and bringing yourself back up to vertical. Now from here, we're going to take a chair or a stool, something, a bolster that you can sit on. You're going to actually sit with your feet wide apart. Your knees are wider than your pelvis. And now from here, you're going to hinge your body forward again from your pelvis. And I'm going to show you that from the side view. So again, just like in the hamstring stretch, the spine keeps its natural curves. We're allowing that fold, that crease. We're going for maximum hip flexion that we can do here. Allowing that belly to hang. Do whatever you want to do with your arms, whatever's comfortable to you, so long as you're not bringing tension into the neck and shoulder area. As you allow that belly to drop and hang towards the ground, you're really allowing your sit bones to open and widen as well as your tailbone to start to lift and float away from the pelvis. So this is really a nice passive way to allow all of those tissues at the bottom of the pelvis, the bottom of the pelvic floor, to easily lengthen. And then when you're ready, go ahead and bring yourself up. So those are just some simple exercises to get started on to lengthen out the pelvic floor, balance out the tensions, bringing the bones into a better mechanical place. I hope that you look forward to some of our videos coming up in the future.